Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Free-to-Play cast, brought to you by MMOBomb.com, your home for all things free-to-play related. I'm your host, Mike Byrne, aka magicman. This is episode 178, and we're recording on 4/27. You're watching it on April 28th or later. We've got people saying dumb things. Not us. Well, I'm sure one of us will say something dumb at some point, and I'm sure you'll comment on it, and that's fine. But we've got other people saying things dumb that we're going to talk about. We've got Paragon news. We've got all kinds of stuff from PAX East. Well, actually, not really, and we'll kind of talk about that in a second, too. But before we do, let's get to the hosts. Mr. Zach Sharp from Free to Play Weekly. What's up, sir?
Not a whole lot. I've been gone for a few weeks, but mainly just college things, and now I'm back, so.
Now you are back. Also on the line, Quinlan Bowers. What's up, Q?
Does it feel empty behind me yet?
It does. It does. The move happens this weekend, huh?
Yes.
So Q will be off of the free-to-play cast next week because she won't even have a damn desk set up and ready to go. So it'll be Jason, Zach, and myself next week, and then Q will rejoin us. I do notice that you have your original Final Fantasy XIV collector set back there, like version 1 launch collector set.
Yeah, there's actually...
Oh, Final Fantasy 11.
Oh.
Very nice.
Rift. Yeah.
But now you can't play it on anything but the PC.
Yeah.
Sad face. Not free to play, so let's slide over and get ready with the news. All right, first off, let's talk, we had some, obviously, conventions and FanFests and things. We had PAX East, we had FanFest from CCP, EVE Online, that whole jazz. Before we get into one or two topics from each of those events, I wanted to kind of get your guys' take on it. I've watched PAX East, a lot of PAX East stuff, the dev panels, and, anything I could get my hands on. First off, two things that I noticed. One, there was very little free-to-play news coming out of PAX East this year. Like, very, very, very little. And while I didn't expect any huge, big announcements, it just seemed glaringly missing this year. And two, on a general front, I really didn't see much big come out of PAX East at all. I mean, there were a couple big, little, oh, okay, great, we got to see something that we've known about, or we got an announcement about a game, but then we don't know very much about it at all. But I was generally kind of disappointed with PAX East this year. Was I off base, Q, or what were you feeling looking through all the news?
Actually, PAX East I always think is pretty low-key. We're not really, by the time PAX East happens, we're really not that far away from E3. If a game company's going to go do something big, they're going to go to PAX, what is it, they call it now, West?
PAX Prime?
Yeah, the old PAX Prime.
PAX Prime, but I think it's PAX West now. Something like that. Like, they never really have brought out big guns for PAX East.
No, and like I said, I wasn't expecting anything earth-shattering, but it seemed really low-key. Like, it wasn't even making headlines on a lot of sites, Zach. It wasn't just ours, because they weren't talking free-to-play stuff generally, but I saw very few PAX East exclusives or PAX East this. We saw some live lock hands-on time by some various sites. Obviously, we don't cover it since it's not going to be free-to-play. And a couple things like that, but it seemed like really low-key this year.
I kind of have to agree with Q here. I mean, it really comes down to PAX East is so close to E3. A lot of people are going to get their news out beforehand, like especially since there's GDC that they have before. They also have PAX Prime earlier as well, and then a bunch of other random little things here and there too. So it really comes down to the fact that I think everyone's sort of holding off till E3 because they know, especially PR people know, that more people are sort of going to be paying attention around that time. And also on top of that, I can't really think of a lot of news just to begin with that is really, I would expect out of anyone right now. I mean, of course, there could be those out of nowhere, news stories, but I don't know. I didn't really expect much from PAX East. I never really do, so I don't know.
Here's the thing, though, and to put this in comparison, because I don't want people to walk away thinking that I expected huge stuff, but just in comparison, on just the free-to-play front. This year, basically, on the free-to-play front, the biggest news out of PAX East was Warframe. I don't think any of us disagree there, right? I mean, they dropped a lot of information about the game for the next year. Other than that, a few indie things here and there, but that was pretty much it. To PAX 2015, just on the free-to-play front, we were talking Overwatch, which at that time we didn't know if it was going to be free-to-play or not, but we assumed based on the genre it was. We were talking Orcs Must Die Unchained. We were talking Guild Wars 2 Heart of Thorns expansion stuff. And that's just on just a few things zipping through the headlines that were PAX East 2015 information. And this year it was Warframe. If you go past that, we were talking Borderlands and the Tales from the Borderlands and all kinds of panels. I don't know. It just seemed... we even have the Final Fantasy 15 demo last year at PAX East, and when they did the whole episode Duske demo. So it kind of fell flat for me this year. But let's get to the free-to-play news. Warframe out of PAX East. Warframe unveiled a ton of stuff. Zach, are you a Warframe guy?
A little bit. I tune into it every once in a while and, play it. But it's something that when I do play, I play it a lot. Like, it's sort of like a binge session. But when I don't play, I will just drop it for a year at a time. But I like the game. I think it's good. I think it's a great free-to-play model, but just don't really end up playing it that much.
I love the concept art for the fairy Warframe, Q. I don't know how you felt about this. I loved it.
I actually wouldn't mind having some razor blade butterflies.
Right?
Like those are, and I also because I'm sitting there when I first saw, just read and there's a fairy fairy themed Warframe, and I'm like, okay, so does it just look fairy-like, or does it actually get to be tiny like an actual fairy? And then, in the video, they're like, oh, it gets to shrink down and screw with all the other,
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
It looks very cool. And the razor butterflies are badass. I really like not only do they have, razor butterflies around it, but they're, embedded into the fairy frame, too. Very, very cool. Also, we got the Valbon Prime, got a full-length trailer, just like we got a teaser trailer last year for the previous Prime. And then a new competitive game, because Warframe, admittedly, mostly PvE content, Zach, want to introduce PvP and have dabbled here and there in some PvP experiences, but it's a game where people kind of get pissed off at the whole idea of shedding blood from another space ninja because of the lore behind the game, right? So it's kind of a delicate balance. Lunara is going to be a more sports theme, so think like a football, that type of friendly competition rather than full-scale PvP. What do you think about something like that being dropped in the old Warframe?
I don't know. I thought originally the game really needed PvP back in the day, but when they implemented more and more of it, I think right now they have sort of an arena setup where you can hop in and sort of duel people and whatnot. But it's really one of those things where once I actually dabbled in it, I wasn't this is exactly what the game needed. I think that they should focus more on sort of what made them great, and if they want to sort of make some more, fun, competitive things here and there, that's fine. Just don't try and make that your full focus, because you always got to sort of remember what got you to this point. And I think that Digital Extremes isn't going to, do what I said and just stray away from that. But I think that it's something that will excite some players who've been looking for more PvP-oriented stuff and want to sort of get away from the daily grind and whatnot. But I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a main attraction either. So,
Q, you want to play some PvP in the Warframes?
I kind of like the idea that they're turning it into a sport. Although it's kind of the video for it was really quick, and they're like, it's a sport. So, but I kind of like that theme, and I actually. Like I said, as long as they kind of, realize or stick to this is what this game is, I don't really think there's a problem with them adding PvP, and it's certainly a lot of something that a lot of people will hop into, and tool around with in for a little while. And if it kind of aids with, kind of killing grind or something somewhere else that maybe somebody might just not enjoy, I totally don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I totally just clicked in. Jason Winter messaged us about something, and I totally just clicked it, not realizing that it was going to overwrite one of my camera shots here. He's saying something about Gameforge, a new game from them. Is he talking about Drop Zone, I would assume? Do we know? Can one of you
I
see
hadn't
that message?
clicked on it to see what he's talking about, so...
He just said, new Gameforge game that should be good enough, at least 10 angry comments.
Well, Gameforge will do that to people. I assume he's talking about Drop Zone, a real-time strategy game that they've put up a teaser site and a trailer for, but we really don't know anything else about it. We'll take a look about it after the free-to-play cast. Also, we had, and Q, this one's going to be all yours, although, Zach, I'm sure you're going to have some things to say on it. CCP unleashed Project Nova, some initial details about Project Nova, a free-to-play shooter coming from the creators of EVE in the type of Dust 514 vein, except maybe not as open world, more closed quarters type combat. And I think the world kind of, at least in my view, let out a collective.
So CCP has several games in the works right now, and I actually I lose track because at least two of them are VR titles, and I can't remember if this is one of them or not.
Well, one of the VR titles is Valkyrie, isn't it?
Yeah, one is Valkyrie, right, which is the first one, but they do have another VR title for, like, one is for one VR device and the other one's for another VR device, so they're kind of spreading the love.
EVE Valkyrie is VR, and then CCP announces Gunjack, a VR title for mobile.
Okay, there's the other one. Yeah, like I said, I kind of lose track. But the trailer and everything for this is very much like the trailer for a lot of CCP's projects when they're first like, oh, look at this project, even with World of Darkness. Look at all these really cool concepts. But we're it's like, oh, we'll show you some gameplay, but it's not really showing you anything yet, because they just kind of like to show things off early, often way too early. I'm guessing it's just going to be in the EVE universe, because everything they're doing now is in the EVE universe.
Zach, does anybody want this?
I think CCP at this point is trying to find lightning in the bottle again, and they're desperately sort of looking around different genres. Like, they have Valkyrie, which is basically a flight sim sort of PvP-ish type game for VR, which VR really doesn't have a huge install base right now, so it doesn't really make any sense. And then they also have Gunjack, which is more of an install base because it's mobile VR. I actually have it on my mobile VR headset, and it's a all-right game, but it's just a sort of standard mini game where you tilt your head around and press the touchpad to fire your gun. And then they have EVE Online, which is that's what makes them is all their money, and so they're taking focus away from that and putting it on all these other projects, and even taking it off their focus from, say, World of Darkness, which was something that a lot of people were looking forward to, because
they don't own World of Darkness.
Yeah, they don't even own it anymore now.
Yeah, exactly. They basically got rid of it.
So with World of Darkness, it was actually kind of interesting, because a lot of what's going into a lot of the production was okay, because they were doing something that they could use in EVE, because they were trying to build out the actual walking around the space stations and all of that stuff. So they were using a lot of the tech back and forth, but they were still, and especially when they launched Dust and went, and I mean, I guess I kind of get it, but they basically went, we want to put it on a console. Like, it's a shooter, we want to put it on a console, and that's all we're putting it on, and thereby alienating all of their PC fan base, who would have picked up the game and played it had they been able to get it on PC. So they really spread themselves out really far, and there were other issues with World of Darkness, like they put people from White Wolf in charge of developing a PC or a PC game, and these people were ruining their own company to begin with. So
Yeah,
Yeah,
and here's the thing I don't understand on the Dust front. You had mentioned that it was, console exclusive. This new title, Project Nova, will not be. It's going to be on consoles, but it's also going to be on PC. So, to me, that makes sense. We think we made a huge mistake here, or maybe they don't, because they've constantly defended that anyway, but I believe at this point they realize that might have been a mistake. And so we're going to rectify that here. And then when you look at, okay, what else are the other differences here? Well, not open world like Dust 514, or more open like that one, but more constrained close quarters combat. Well, that really wasn't the problem with Dust 514. So I just don't get... and I'm not an Eve guy, so maybe that's a huge stumbling block for me. I don't get... Let's reconstruct something we've basically already done in Dust 514, and we'll close the quarters a little bit and open it up to PC, rather than just saying, okay, if we believe these are the core flaws with Dust 514, let's port it over to the PC, let's close these environments a little bit, and we already have the product that we're looking for. I just don't necessarily get the idea of a whole new project in a very, very similar vein to one you've already had essentially fail.
So the thing is, too, though, I mean, you say you're not really being an Eve guy. It didn't even make sense to Eve people.
Right.
That's what I was thinking too. It's like they completely sort of made a game for what isn't their demographic, and it's really something that
which
did
not
purposely.
gonna fault them. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's expanding their own
But
brand.
then what's really the point? It's kind of like making a World of Warcraft game, but not like a first-person shooter World of Warcraft game, which I guess is Overwatch, but Blizzard's always been more of a variety genre developer, where maybe CCP's aiming to do that. Maybe they're trying to broaden their horizons, but it seems like every time they try and do that, it hasn't really done too well for them. Like, I think that Project Nova looks good. I want to play it, but I don't really know how they're really going to get people into the game, because I don't even think Dust 514 was really that popular. I played on my PS3 once, but it wasn't really that populated even.
And I don't fault them for trying Dust 514. Broaden your audience, get more customers. I fault them for the execution and the alienation of their own existing customers that hamstring them from the beginning. And now I question a very similar project with some slight differences and being available on the PC queue.
Well, that's the big difference, though, right?
Yeah.
It's available on PC, because that was the complaint of every EVE Online player. I would play this game if it were available on PC. And it didn't make sense to the players because it's connected. And it wasn't even just, it takes place in the same universe. It was literally connected to EVE Online in a, you as EVE players hire the Dust 514 players, and they do work for you on the ground. Like, and there's all these, connections. So it would have been easier for a lot of, and they could have built out the game. And the other problem too, right, being console players have never heard of CCP or EVE Online. Like, they don't know what this game is.
Interesting concept. I mean, I was definitely with them as this could be very neat, but ultimately it didn't pan out for them. But now I just don't. There's huge question marks in my head around Project Nova and the point of it.
Yeah, just one last thing. I think that when it comes to CCP, Valkyrie makes a lot more sense to push.
Absolutely.
It fits exactly what sort of Eve is, except for more, I guess you could say, active, because Eve is a little, it's not like super active in terms of obviously aiming everything and whatnot.
Spreadsheets in space.
Exactly, right? And so Valkyrie makes sense. I just don't think that them going first-person shooter route, as much as it looks good, I'll play it, I'll probably enjoy it, I just don't think it makes sense for them is all. So
let us know what you think in the comments below. You've seen the Project Nova trailer. You've gotten a little bit of information on it. Let us know what you think, particularly if you're an EVE player. If you would have played Dust 514, but it was on console, so you had to abandon it. Are you excited about Project Nova? Let us know what you guys think in the comments. Maybe it's something silly, maybe it's not. Speaking of silly things, let's take a look at two really silly things that happened this week. And we're not even going to talk about Mark Kern, so we're going to skip that one. Daybreak Games. We'll start there, Q. Daybreak Games talked to games industry this week. And they were talking about early access. Keep in mind, this is the company that put the kibosh on EverQuest Next, converted H1Z1 from a free-to-play game into 2 buy-to-play games, has been making some oddball decisions. And they came across this interview and said, hey, early access is a great thing. A great thing, and it's great for the industry to have. And this is the quote here by, and I'm going to mispronounce the middle name, I apologize. It's Laura Neveau-Stur, or Navio, and I apologize again for mispronouncing that. I am not French, and that looks like a French name to me. The quote is, you really have to commit as a developer. The development team really has to ingest that feedback into the workflow and be able to pivot, course correct, and make adjustments. And I think that's one thing that Daybreak does really well, is that we're fairly nimble. We've been doing games as a service since our inception. It's in our DNA. And what she's speaking about here is that early access is so great because it gets the community involved in the development. And what is totally not talked about here is the fact that they have to pay for the right to do so in all of these cases. I kind of just shook my head the entire interview. And she goes on to talk about, H1Z1, the free-to-play model not really fitting that, and that's why it didn't work out. And ultimately, I face-palmed 2 or 3 times during this interview, Q.
Oh, I mean, in some cases, I think early access has kind of worked out, but that was prior to early access being something everyone does. Like, Minecraft worked out great. We didn't actually know what early access was at the time, though.
True.
But it worked out great for everybody there, but it was just some dude trying to make a game, and he did it. But this is more, the hopping on the bandwagon kind of thing. Like they just can't figure out Daybreak Games cannot figure out what they are doing.
Here's the one that struck me as particularly facepalm worthy. Stur also added that the company is making the shift in models due to the fact that it's not a one-size-fits-all situation. Some games benefit from companies' traditional free-to-play models, others, such as H1Z1, do not. And here's why I facepalmed. You knew you were exclusively a free-to-play company when you started development of H1Z1 as Sony Online Entertainment. It was not a surprise to you. That was your company's credo at the time. All free, all the time, blah, 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 blah. You knew. So you intentionally now are telling me that you created a game that you knew didn't fit the free-to-play model, even though you knew your company did only free-to-play, Zach? I mean, this sounds like trying to explain away the past. Hi, Domino.
Not only is it madness, but let's name this here. EverQuest Landmark. Now, that was originally made, from what they always said, to build EverQuest Next with them. How did that work out? That was basically early access. You buy into the Founders Pack, you get into the beta. So, I mean, and then you look at H1Z1, they release it in early access. It's going to be free to play, guys. Come help build the game with us. Oh, you help build the game with us? Now we're going to swap it to buy to play. And by the way, we're going to put it on sale for 35% off on Steam, which happened this week, because it's not selling, and we priced it too high to begin with, because we basically split it in 2 and doubled the price. Why not, right? And then they also have, their other games, which they're just never really done anything properly recently, at least. Like, they still have DC Universe Online, give them credit there where credit's due. It's a popular game. They're releasing it now on Xbox One. Fantastic. They also have PlanetSide 2. We don't mention that game enough, I feel. It's always been fine, and it performs fine. It's a fun game. It's a fine game. But everything new that they've been trying to make recently just completely either blows up, gets completely ruined by PR, like with H1Z1, or it just gets canceled, like EverQuest Next. So it's really something. If it was from another developer, I would understand, but from this developer, I don't really get why they're even trying to rid themselves of their past. Own your past, fix your past, and move on to the future.
Yeah,
but
she also said that understandably the model of free to play or early access or what all those different types of models may not be for everyone, but then almost tries to, and this one kind of bothers me, Q. Tried to kind of pass off early access as being particularly useful for those small indie companies that aren't doing AAA games, and they don't have to make a publication at a specific time. And I don't. To me, I don't think early access benefits those types of companies as much as she's trying to imply that they do. I think early access, particularly ones that you have to buy into early access, don't tend to work as well for those companies because they don't have the exposure and long-term, I have an inherent trust in some semblance of quality, so let me give you the money. This is an unknown. I just don't think that's a really in-touch comment to make, Q.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's kind of like, not even necessarily early access, but things like Kickstarter and stuff, right? Like, what was it, 2014? We were throwing money left and right, or whatever year it was, but throwing money left and right at Kickstarter because it was, like Double Fine and stuff like that hopping on, and then all of a sudden everybody is like, oh, I can, get my game totally made, by going on Kickstarter. And there's so many people on there now that you look at it and you're like, who is this guy and why should I care?
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like I said, it definitely works for some people, and it works out well for both the players and the person doing it, but it's almost kind of a fluke to a certain extent. It's like with early access with any well-named company, there's an underlying expectation there, and one of them is that they don't kill the game when we've already put money into it.
Yep. Yep. And obviously the number one argument, Zach, that you hear on the whole topic is, well, early access is optional. It's optional. It's optional. You don't have to buy into it, so it's not really a scam, because if you want to wait and just play it whenever, fine. It's optional. It's optional. How do you feel on that one?
Is it really optional when these games are in development for so many?
The purchase of anything is optional.
I know. But like, if you are really wanting to play a game and you're waiting and waiting and waiting for it to come out, how are you not going to buy into said game if that carrot is dangling in front of your face? Because like with EverQuest Next and Landmark, people wanted to build that game with them. And they bought into Landmark, maybe not really fully committed to really wanting to play that game, but they're like, hey, we'll help them test their engine, we'll help them, just sort of test different things out, different, methods and systems, and then it just completely got canceled. And there's a lot of other games out there that just sort of release great concepts in an early access form and then fizzle out and just never really release. And I think Q said it right. Early access is really a fluke in a sense, especially from a success standpoint. If you count all the early access games out there, Kickstarter included, and you count how many actually release with their fully promised goals and aspirations, you probably can barely count a lot using your hands and toes. Like it's a very small amount compared to how many of them are out there. And I've never been a fan of early access for this reason. I think it's a cash grab method. And I've always said that a starving developer is much more inclined to finish their game than a comfortable one. And that's really the risk reward factor of the games industry, is that if you make a great game, people are going to throw money at you. If you don't make a great game, then you're dead in the water.
Yeah, I just found the whole interview kind of bizarre, and felt a little bit out of touch for me, and even trying to maybe put a rose-colored glasses type view on the past of Daybreak / SOE, and I didn't like the interview. It just it really kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Also, speaking of people not saying the wisest things, Cliff Bleszinski of LawBreakers from Boss Key Productions told Destructoid that, yeah, okay, so LawBreakers shifted from free-to-play to pay-to-play, and here's why. And Q, his answer was, it felt dirty. It felt dirty to him.
I mean, he's not the only dev to say that. referring back to SOE, we heard a lot about that from Smed after he left Daybreak.
Yep.
So, but I think what killed me more was that his entire trying to figure out what model to go with, and basically, and I think someone actually commented this on the post as well. Is basically they don't. It's like he doesn't feel that his game is good enough that people would be willing to buy the cosmetic things, because he's talking about that being like he's totally cool with people buying or with games that sell you the cosmetic shit. Most of the games that are doing really well in free to play, that's what they sell.
Yep.
Like, they sell the cosmetic stuff. Maybe they sell some mounts, maybe a new skin for your, or in the case of MOBAs, the rotational, champions or whatever. But still, most everything is cosmetic. It's not like you're selling, like abilities and everything. It's just it really is almost like he doesn't have enough faith in his game to be like, oh well, we can, this is a really good looking game, which it does look pretty.
Here's the quote, too. Here's a fun quote. This is from Cliff Bleszinski. It was hurting my brain thinking of ways to do it, talking about making the game LawBreakers free-to-play. Do we do a hero rotation? Do we do an energy system, pay-to-play? We kept coming back to the idea of paying a lump sum, and at that point, we decided to get rid of free-to-play. Zach, I have one thing that would have fixed this entire thing. Fixed it all. Don't announce it as free-to-play until you have these conversations.
Yeah?
How hard is this?
Apparently, it's really hard. I mean, I think that Cliff is just trying to explain himself out of his decision to switch models, and it kind of seems really defensive and silly, because when it comes to business, you make a decision and you stick with it, and you don't try and explain your way out of it for weeks on end. Like, I feel like this discussion's been going on for a while, because he spoke at GDC, if I remember correctly, about the same issue, that, it feels dirty and whatnot, and it just wasn't best for our entire game. And now he's saying the same sort of things about free to play, and that we could have put an energy system that doesn't exist in a lot of games in the West, in our game, because I'm just trying to make free to play sound bad, you guys, even though there's a lot of great examples of free to play done right. So I think that even though I want to play LawBreakers, I think it's gonna be a fun game. I think Cliff is just trying to explain himself out of a decision. Maybe has some regrets, or is just not confident in his game. I don't know.
This isn't hard. I mean, if you're still having those internal discussions, Q, of how could we do this, if we want to make this game free to play, how can we do this, then you should not be announcing that your game is free to play at that point.
Well, I mean, it's just like Blizzard when they announced Overwatch. They did not, and they refused to say what their model was going to be. They're like, we'll let you know when we've decided something. We're not sure yet what the model is going to be like. And of course, we all just assumed it would be free to play because their last several games had been free to play, and it's a MOBA type thing.
Yep.
So we just all assumed. That's our fault, not theirs. In this case where they're like, and it's going to be free, and no, it's not. That's all their fault. And it's not surprising people are pissed.
Yeah, and it's not surprising that he's in a position where he feels like he needs to defend the situation, because they fucked up. There's no better way to say it. They did.
Plus, I mean, looking at it from something that he can sort of learn moving forward is learn from Blizzard in this regard. A lot of people were mad that Blizzard didn't make Overwatch free to play, but they made a very concise statement about it and moved on.
Yep.
That's it. There's like, we're done. We're done with this. We're not going to defend ourselves anymore. There's no reason to, because we made a decision. We're moving forward. We're going to make the best game possible with this model. Where Cliff sort of like defend, even though I guarantee you the hate towards that game right now, because it moved away from the free-to-play model, was not even close to the amount of people that were mad about Overwatch.
Yeah.
All right, before we slide over to the weekly bombs here, let's talk about something good. Lots of changes made to Paragon. Speaking of free-to-play, Epic Games, a third-person MOBA. We've talked about it on the show before, did the first look. It's up on the website and on the YouTubes. Including Here it is, Zach. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
The movement speed has been increased.
Huzzah!
Huzzah! So movement speed both in and out of combat has been increased across all heroes. There are other changes in different abilities that make the game's pace faster. That was, Zach, when you and I talked about this game on the show, it was our number one gripe, was the pace just felt too slow, even if you wanted a slower, more strategic type MOBA game. Something that I would look forward to, and it was still too slow for me. That's been revamped a little bit and would continue to be as beta goes on. New heroes, we got a stress test coming up where if you want to play, go ahead and sign up on the site. They're going to be letting hundreds of thousands of people into the stress tests coming up. And a collector's bundle on the PlayStation 4. But we'll get to that in a minute. Let's talk about the good stuff. The good stuff. Have you played it since the movement speed increases, Zach?
No, I'm actually not even in the beta. I was actually going to look at some gameplay and see whether or not the movement speed increased to the point where, at least from a viewer perspective, it looks solid, and I just haven't got around to it yet, but I cannot wait to play the stress test because it's been too long since the initial announcement of Paragon for me to actually finally get my hands on it, and so I can't wait to play it now that the movement speed's increased. I wonder if it's increased enough, though. And that's why I was curious to look at some gameplay, just didn't get around to it. But have you got around to it?
I could go for just a little bit faster.
A little bit faster.
God, does it feel so much better than it did. So it's still a slower pace just because of the type of game that they've built. But I'm okay with that. League of Legends isn't for me. This is. It was just way too slow. Now it's not. I would probably like it amped up just a little bit more, but I think they're going to tweak that as they go. They just threw a flat percentage on there for most of the heroes to see what happened. It definitely feels faster. What's funny is all it is movement speed, right? I mean, your abilities are still the same, the push and pull but you're getting there faster, you're getting out of those situations faster, and the overall pace picks up because of it. You don't feel like you're trudging down the lane from base to get to the second tower, and it's 20 minutes. Q, you finally got in! And then you're moving this weekend. Damn it. Damn it. Q was so excited, sent me a message. I got it. Oh, shit, I'm moving this weekend. What'd you think about some of the new heroes, though, Q? We got, what is it? Iggy and Scorch, the new tandem hero. Iggy rides on Scorch, and they light some things up. It's the second hero introduced into Paragon since the initial beta launches. I kind of dig the character, I'm not going to lie.
I think that may be my new favorite thing.
Yeah.
Just writing her, like, the whole idea of having a fire-belching mount.
Yep. So base movement speed, to give you the exact percentage, Zach, was 12.5% across the board for all heroes.
I honestly think Epic's doing this game right and doing it justice.
That's an eighth. 12.5% is an eighth.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. We mentioned a lot of people in the community were talking about this, especially in the comments section. It'd be hard to really ignore how many people are like, oh, it seems too slow, it looks boring, and so they took that feedback and turned it into a quick fix really quickly, in my opinion, especially if we look at other games out there that maybe have complaints for a really long time and never really do much about it till maybe like a year later, 6 months plus later. They really took that feedback and, you know, brought forth a fix to it. At least sort of a progression towards a fix. Maybe it's not the complete fix. Maybe people will want to increase a little bit more. But at least they're testing it. And that's what we want to see from a game that's in beta. We want to see developers constantly listening to the community, changing things, testing said things in the playable environment, and then, you know, tweaking things more and more while still releasing new content like new heroes and whatnot. So it's really cool to see that. It's something that should be expected, but I think that there's a lot of developers that sort of, at least jaded myself over the years, where they just sort of sit on their game for a while, don't really do much while it's in beta, and you're kind of like thinking yourself up in there, your hands are up in there like, what are you guys doing right now? No, like, you guys have a great concept, progress it, make it better, and finally release it.
Agree. Huge thumbs up to Epic Games. So the free beta weekends, the first one starts April 28th, tomorrow, but today, as you're watching this. If you've signed up already on their site for beta. The first 500,000 people that signed up for beta will get invited to the stress test. That stress test will run until May 1st. The game will go down for a few days and then reopen on May 5th to anybody that signs up for beta by the 1st. So if you have not signed up for beta and you want to check it out, you won't get into this first stress test, but if you sign up on their site by May 1st, you will get into the one that starts on May 5th. Of course, early access players, Epic Games wants you to participate too, and there's double XP for both weekends, and things stack and all that stuff. So we don't have any other dates for future tests, but those are the two that are on the docket right now. Also, on the PlayStation 4 side, there's now a $60 Essentials Edition of Paragon for the PS4. 5 Hero Master Challenges, 5 Rep Boosts, 5 Hero Skins, and one's an exclusive Wasteland Twin Blast skin. Of course, Q Epic says, this is worth $160, but we're going to give it to you for the low cost of $60, because they get to determine what these things are worth anyway.
Yeah, it's $160 if you buy all of those things individually, but, you know, value of a digital item.
Yep, you can get them at Amazon, Best Buy, GameStop, Target, and Walmart. Yeah, of course, check out the whole site. I really wasn't a fan of this. I think this one this one's very weird to me, because it's a free-to-play game that you already did your early access for, and to get your testers in there on the PC, I don't know.
I think it's fine. I mean, if it's going to be available at different retailers, it'll give them more of a store presence. You know,
yeah, that's true.
They'll look through some games and see, oh, Paragon, that looks cool, because their artwork is really good. I mean, let's be honest here. And it'll catch their eye. They'll look at it and maybe buy it. So I think it's fine. If it was priced above $60, like they're $160 value, then I think that would be outrageous, and I would be completely against it. But they priced it at $60. So.
You've swayed me. Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about the inbox or in-store self-promotion that essentially does. I've seen Overwatch everywhere, by the way.
Yep.
Overwatch is being shoved down my throat at every store I go to.
But they're doing Overwatch giveaways at Taco Bell.
Right? Huge thumbs up to Epic Games, though. Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Nice to end the news on a very, very good note. Let's get over and do the weekly bomb. Can I do mine first this week?
You're in charge.
Is that all right? I'm not in charge. I'm going to give an A-bomb to Magicka Wizard Wars shutting down. So the games, if you've played it over the last few months, you've probably already surmised that it was probably shutting down. But apparently it has been less than profitable for a while now. And now it's just time to come to an end. So we got about 3 months before you won't be able to play it at all. So A-bomb to it shutting down. Kind of a fun game. I like the whole Magicka series anyway. Dub-bomb to me for not joining that team a few years back. I had the opportunity to join the Magicka team and provide videos and things for them. And I turned it down. It was interesting, and I thought about doing it, and you know that looked great on a resume, but I turned it down, and God, I'm glad I did now. So A-bomb, but also a dub-bomb. And I got the sunlight again, so we've got the holy, and apparently I scratched myself. Ouch. Go ahead, Zach.
I'm going to give a halfway dub-bomb, halfway A-bomb to Above and Beyond for releasing fragments of their sort of survival-ish title that was just given away for free for people who own the repopulation. For people who don't own the repopulation, you'll have to purchase it, but it is now actually available, at least to get in their early access. And I gave it a dub-bomb because the game, it shows what the assets look like in the Unreal 4 engine, and it looks promising. But I gave them a A-bomb because I don't want them to split focus. I mean, the repopulation's been basically taken forever to ever develop into something, and then once it did develop into something, we were able to get our hands on it. It ended up having to switch engines, and now we're going to have to wait even longer. And I know that they probably just made this game to test systems and whatnot, but I would rather them have just tested those systems and just sort of developed them into the repopulation instead of, you know, developing a whole nother game. Because now they have 2 early access games on the market, which is the repopulation and fragmented, and they can't just, you know, sell fragmented and be like, oh, we're just going to stop developing for this. They got to keep developing for it, so that's going to split their development team in half. or at least split it in some sort of ratio in terms of how many people are going to go to the fragmented team. I don't. I want them all on the repopulation. I want that game finished already. Damn it.
Go ahead, Q.
Well, we already kind of know my A-bomb. That's just the whole, getting into beta when I have to move. Why couldn't you guys have done it last week?
From the viewers, Toll Short says, "Dub bomb to the MMO bomb crew. You guys keep up the good work and look forward to the cast every week." Toll Short, thank you kindly. That's why we do this. Thank you so much. Go ahead, Zach.
Forteg says, "The bomb to my poor PC, whose age has never become more apparent when I got into Paragon, for being to run the damn game at all. Don't worry, my sweet prince. I foresee a well-deserved upgrade in your future."
Farewell, sweet prince. Go ahead, Q.
Hellsworth, here's a question. You have the best MMO to release. You wanted to go free to play. What company would you choose to publish it in the West? Your thought is, I want to make it right. My answer would be someone small but somewhat recognizable, so I could get some pull on the store and monetization.
Ooh, good question. Whose would yours be?
God, I don't know at this point, because half the people that or the companies at this point that I'd be like, yeah, they did great, have failed me. So
yeah, they've screwed it up. 2 years ago, I'd have been like, try out Worlds, baby.
Yeah,
easy.
Back in the day.
What about you, Zach? We'll let Q
Digital Extremes or Grinding Gear Games. Easy.
It took my answer. Grinding Gear Games would have
Easy.
been mine, hands down. Path of Exile. Although I could go with you on Digital Extremes for Warframe.
Yeah.
Q, do you have an answer, or do you want me to keep going?
Just keep going.
All right. Sokapek says, "I want to give an A-bomb to you guys." Aw, we started off with a dub bomb. Now we're getting an A-bomb.
Aw.
You need to start covering some paid MMOs. That way you can balance all the free-to-play negativity with some happy news sprinkled here and there. Also, Eve Citadel's hype. Anyone? P.S. Love the show. Well, hey, we bring the free-to-play happy news, too. We were just gushing about Paragon a few minutes ago, but we'll actually talk about that paid MMOs thing a little further down. We did a little thing on Free-to-Play Weekly a couple weeks ago, and now we're going to get the Free-to-Play Cast's opinion, the viewer's opinion there. Go ahead, Zach.
SMHTBHFAM. I think it's Shake My Head, to be honest, fam. At least it's not Dom. Couldn't afford the costumes then.
Talking about Area Games being the team that's going to bring Bless Online to the West. Yeah, you weren't on that show. What'd you think of that? I know you kind of have your eye on Bless.
I don't know. I don't really see a lot of the negativity surrounding Aria Games. I mean, maybe it's before Echo of Soul, but my main exposure to them was Echo of Soul. I mean, I dabbled in some of their other games, but that was my main sort of
your favorite game
my
of all
voyage. Time. Yeah, exactly. No, of course
it's not. Echo of Soul is your favorite game of all time.
Of course. Anyhow, and so I didn't really see a lot of bad things in the cash shop of Echo of Soul. I didn't really have a huge issue with it. So, I mean, I don't really... I think it's fine. I might get hate for that, but I think it's all right.
Go ahead, Q.
Troy Blankenship, thank God they didn't go with Snail Games.
Yes.
I can agree there. I can definitely agree there. Oh, boy. Mozanakun87, A-bomb to abuser crafter players in Final Fantasy XIV who are threatening, harassing, and abusing other crafter players because they want to control the market. To me, this shows that those abusive players are scared to compete with other players and can't handle it when other players profit from the market. It's disappointing to hear this kind of issue from a game that is known to have a good community, and another fucking A-bomb for Square Enix, who do not give a fuck about this issue and not doing anything about it. Yeah, the crafting community is kind of foobar right now. It's in as far as being a community. I would tend to agree with you, although I don't know exactly what Square Enix could do about it. Wow, I really cut myself. Ouch. Go ahead, Zach.
Baka says, new first look has a nice setup, transition, and all do, of course, need to be worked on.
Oh, yeah.
It'd be nice to have the conclusion listed all together rather than one at a time, as well as maybe a play/pass rating for such, or such. The rage already exists in Atlas Reactor, by the way. A shame, but it's there. It'll be in all competitive games.
Thank you for the feedback on the first look. Yeah, we obviously the visuals we would touch up. We were kind of proving concept with that. I don't know about the play pass thing, because then I think that gets into a little bit too much of a review. And for something that we're probably spending an hour to a couple of hours getting the initial first, I don't know. Something to consider, though. We'll think about it. Thank you for the feedback on that one. Question of the week. Does a publisher actually prevent you from checking out a game that you may be interested in? Why or why not? Tepik says, there's only one publisher I'll avoid no matter what. Tryon. I decided to avoid them completely after getting burned and shat on, and since then, if anything, they've gotten even worse. I wouldn't want to support any company that consistently treats customers as cash machines, even if they came up with a good game with a good monetization model, though obviously that isn't going to happen. Ouch. Ouch. Go ahead, Zach.
Toll Short says, absolutely, I'd stay away from a game because of the publisher. Some companies I just can't give my money to. If EA published the greatest game ever, I'd have to miss out on it. I'd rather burn my cash than give it to them. Other companies just operate so poorly that you know how it will turn out. Pay to win, bad customer service, etc. So why even bother with the game when you know that ultimately you will be disappointed with the experience?
That's true. I mean, it comes down to the whole voting with your wallet thing, right?
Yep.
Go ahead, Q.
Lunar Templar. Oh yes, Perfect World is one of them. I could have had all the hype in the world for a game, but if I find out they're publishing it, I lose all interest before I finish reading the sentence. I've got better things to do and play than those crappy pay-to-win grinders.
Wow.
Perfect World games are pretty grindy.
Yeah.
Billy Hartley says, a publisher with even a mildly bad reputation will stop me from trying a game, even if I never had any experiences with said publisher before. I won't live forever. I want my time left to be used on experiences I know I won't regret. And that's probably the best way to look out at it. We're all here for a very finite amount of time, Zach. Go ahead, sir.
Slash Kun says, yes, if I'm boycotting the publisher, I won't play any of their games. Other than that, I don't really care. We'll go in and test the game if it seems worth playing for me. I will look up a bit on the internet. If not a new title, then I'll try to figure out myself if the cash shop has pay-to-win elements. But if the worst is pay to skip, then I evaluate if it's enjoyable enough to not feel forced into the cash shop.
And of course, Q, we're going to wrap it up with one more slam of Tryon.
Or Tryon.
They used to be really awesome back in the day. Yeah. Metallica Fan 1442. Yes, I wouldn't touch any game published by Tryon after I bought the Arcade Founders Pack. What a waste of £100.
Yeah. Question of the week for next week. Obviously, MMO Bomb is known. Is known.
If known.
Is known for covering free-to-play exclusively. But more and more, we do hear the fans saying we should cover this or cover this, sometimes being sub-based or buy-to-play. As MMO bombers, how do you feel on the topic? I mean, there's a certain danger there, right, Zach? There's so many sites that just cover gaming in general that you can get lost in that crowd. We do the free-to-play thing, but, free-to-play may get smaller for a couple of years here and then get bigger again, and it's got its own ebbs and flows. So, generally, what would you like us to do? Stick with the free-to-play? Maybe mix in some buy-to-play because there's no sub and we'll just stay away from sub-base? Cover it all? Whatever you think. Put your comments below. Let us know what you think. Don't forget your weekly bombs. D-bomb for something good. A-bomb for something bad. Until next week, Zach, where can everybody find you?
Everyone can find me on Twitter at Zach Sharps. I post a lot of random stuff on there. Gaming, non-gaming related. Random movie reviews, random TV show reviews. Who are you
getting into a fight with on Twitter?
About what?
You were I saw your Twitter posts about getting in a fight with somebody. What was it about? I don't even remember. Somebody was fighting with you on a stream or over a video, and you were tweeting about it. Oh well. What the hell was it? Now it's gonna bug me. I can't end the
Internet
episode.
drama.
Yeah, I can't end the episode right now. I gotta find this.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I talked about what was it? Me and my friend were talking about how should expansions be considered as possible Game of the Year contenders.
No.
But that wasn't really a fight. That was more of a discussion.
No.
And then Nintendo news, there was a guy who said that, it's obviously they're releasing in March because there's a lot of AAA titles, which makes no sense because there's always a lot of AAA titles in the holidays.
You got called a Sony pony.
Oh, yes. I feel very triggered whenever someone calls me very loyal to a company, because I always look at what have they done for me, not what can I do for them. Because it really comes down to, if you produce a product, it's all about competing for everyone's wallets. You should never be really brand loyal, because you never know what they're going to produce. And if they produce something really terrible, then it's your own fault for sort of praying to them. So,
yeah, so if you want to see some fun fights occasionally, at Zach Sharps is the place for entertainment.
Yes.
Q, until next time, where can everybody see you fight?
I don't fight. It's not worth my time, man. I got better shit to do.
So where can everybody follow you then?
Well, you can follow me on Twitter for all the entertainment that's going on right there right now.
I'm Mike Byrne, aka Magic Man. You can follow me on Twitter at magicman1, MAGICKMANN1, or of course come on over to mmobomb.com. Check out all the other great videos, news stories, giveaways, tons of fucking giveaways. I'm sick of typing them, but you guys love them, so come and get the keys. Until next time, stay safe. We'll see you out on the servers.